Practice 9-7 using the quadratic formula. So sometimes we have trinomials where we can't solve by factoring or completing the square or graphing or anything like that because it's kind of funny looking, like for example x squared plus 2x plus 13, because there's no number that multiplies to equal 13 and adds to equal 2. So in this case, we want to use something called the quadratic formula. So the quadratic formula is x equals opposite b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a. And I know it's a mouthful, and you probably think you can't remember it, but fortunately I have a very nifty song. It goes, x equals opposite b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So if you can remember the song, then you can remember the quadratic formula. And so in this case, the b's and the a's and the c's all refer to the numbers in front of the x's. So if the number is in front of the x squared, that is automatically a. If it is in front of the x, then it's b. And if it's the number that's all by itself, not attached to an x, then it's c. So let's give it a shot. Number 1, we have x squared plus 8x plus 5. So remember, this is going to be a, not the x squared, but the number in front of the x squared. And so anytime you have an x or an x squared or any variable at all where there's no number in front, there is an invisible 1. So that means a is 1. B is the number in front of the x, so it's 8. And c is the number that's all by its lonesome, so it's 5. And so let's review the song. We have x equals opposite b, so negative 8, because the opposite of positive 8 is negative 8. So x equals opposite b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So let's see. So let's replace a with 1 and c with 5. Okay, and then we can replace this a on the bottom with 1. Okay, so now all we need to do is simplify. So the first thing we're going to take care of is this inside of the square root sign. So we want to take care of this 8 squared first. So what we're going to do is we're going to rewrite the whole equation, because that is what good and responsible mathematicians do. They rewrite the equation every time, only changing one thing each time. So 8 squared is 64 minus 4 times 1 times 5, which is 20, over 2 times 1, which is 2. Now we want to simplify the inside of this radical or square root sign even further. So we have 64 minus 20. So once again, we rewrite this whole equation, plus or minus the square root of 64 minus 20, which is 44 over 2. Okay, now we want to take care of this square root. So we're going to find the square root of 44. So in the directions it says to round to the nearest hundredth if necessary. That means we're allowed to go to up to 2 decimal places after the point. So square root of 44 is, let's see, so we're going to say plus or minus, and when we do the square root of 44, it's 6.63 over 2. Okay, so what we're going to do now is, because this is a plus or minus sign, these are actually representing 2 different numbers. We have negative 8 plus 6.63 or negative 8 minus 6.63. So we're going to separate them into 2 different equations. So we have negative 8 plus 6.63 over 2, or x equals negative 8 minus 6.63 over 2. So when we add this numerator, negative 8 plus 6.63 is negative 2.63 over 2. Okay, and negative 8 minus 6.63. So anytime you're you have a negative minus a number, it's like you're adding two negative number. It's like saying negative 8 plus negative 6.63. So we're actually going to have negative 14.63 over 2. So now we divide both of these numbers by 2. So 2.63 divided by 2 is 1.315. So we have x equals 1.3, and we're going to round up to 2, or x equals negative 14 divided by 2, and that is going to be 7.315. But remember, anytime you multiply or divide one negative and one positive, you're going to end up with a negative number. So these are your answers. X equals negative 1.32 and negative 7.315. So let's go to the next problem. We have x squared plus 12x minus 40 equals 0. So one thing to note is that it's really important that all three terms are on one side of the equal sign, and you want it to equal 0. If not, then you need to rearrange it. But for now, this is good. So we are going to figure out our a, b, and c. So the number in front of x squared is a, and there's an invisible 1 here. The number in front of the x is b, and then negative 40 is c. So we are going to use our equation again. So x equals opposite b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So you're probably going to get sick of hearing this song, but I'm going to keep singing it anyways, because this is the only way you are going to remember it, by me repeating it over and over and over again until you wish I would shut up. So, but I'm not going to shut up because I'm teaching you math. So now we're going to replace all the a's, b's, and c's with actual numbers. So opposite b, so b is positive 12, so opposite b is negative 12. Okay, and over here b is 12, so we have 12 squared. Let's see, a is 1, so we're multiplying all of these together. C is negative 40, and this a on the bottom is getting replaced with a1. So now we can simplify, and the first thing we're going to simplify is this inside of the square root sign. So we're going to rewrite the entire equations like the responsible mathematicians that we are. So 12 squared is 144 minus 4 times 1 times negative 40. So 4 times 40 is 160, so we have negative 160. So notice that we are minusing a negative number. What that really means is that we are adding, okay? And then we are putting this over 2 times 1, which is 2. And we are going to keep on simplifying. So negative 12 plus or minus the square root. And now we are going to simplify 144 plus 160. And that is going to be 204 over 2. So now we are going to find the square root of 204, because this is the next part that we are simplifying. So you can use your calculator for this. In fact, I don't think you could do it in your head, so I hope you have a calculator. So we have x equals negative 12 plus or minus 14.28 over 2. And remember, since we have this plus or minus, that means we are splitting this up into two different equations. So we have x equals negative 12 plus 14.28 over 2, or x equals negative 12 minus 14.28 over 2. So on this side, we have negative 12 plus 14.28, and that is going to be positive 2.28 over 2, or x equals negative 26.28 over 2. And now we're going to divide both of these numbers by 2. So on this side, we have x equals positive 1.14, or, oops, there we go, or x equals negative 13.14. So here are your two answers. Okay, next one. So we have A is 6, B is negative 23, and C is 7. So guess what? We're going to sing the song again. X equals opposite B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. So now we are going to replace all of these again. So since B is negative 23, the opposite of that is positive 23. And so 23 goes in place of the B over here. Instead of this A, we are going to put 6. And instead of this C, we are going to put 7. And instead of this A down here, we are going to replace that with a 6. And now we can simplify. So the first thing we're going to do is simplify the inside of this, first by squaring the 23, and then by multiplying 4 times 6 times 7. So we're going to rewrite this equation, x equals 23 plus or minus the square root of 23 squared, which is 529, minus 4 times 6 times 7, which is 168, over 2 times 6, which is 12. So let's keep simplifying. Now we are going to be subtracting these numbers inside of the square root sign. So we have to rewrite this equation, x equals 23 plus or minus the square root of 529 minus 168, and that is going to be 361 over 12. And now we want to find the square root of 361. So we are going to rewrite the equation, x equals 23 plus or minus 19 over 12. Okay, and now we are going to take care of this plus or minus by separating these into two different equations. So we have x equals 23 plus 19 divided by 12, or x equals 23 minus 19 divided by 12. So 23 plus 19 is 42. So we have x equals 42 over 12, or x equals 4 over 12. So 42 divided by 12 is 3.5, and 4 divided by 12 is the same as 1/3, so that's going to be 0.33333, on and on and on. So these are your two answers, x equals 3.5 and x equals 0.3333333. Okay, once again we have an invisible 1 in front of the x squared, so this is A, the 5 is B, and the negative 90 is C. And we are going to use our quadratic formula. So x equals opposite B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. And now we can replace our numbers. So instead of B, we are going to put 5. So putting in 5 for all our B's. For all of our A's, we are going to put in 1. Okay, and for our C, we are going to plug in negative 90. Okay, and now we can simplify. So the first thing we're going to do is take care of this inside of the square root sign. First by squaring the 5 and by multiplying 4 times 1 times negative 90. So we are going to rewrite the equation. You don't want to skip steps, because when you skip steps, that is where the mistakes happen. So even people who are good at math make mistakes when they skip steps. So 5 squared is 25 minus 4 times 1 times 90, which is negative 360. So when you minus a negative, you're really adding, over 2 times 1, which is 2. So now we have negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 25 plus 360. So that is going to be 385. And we're dividing this whole thing by 2. So now we want to find the square root of 385. And that is 19.62. So we have negative 5 plus or minus 19.62 over 2. And now, because we have this plus or minus, we are going to separate these into two different equations. So we have x equals negative 5 plus 19.62 over 2, and x equals negative 5 minus 19.62 over 2. So when you add negative 5 and positive 19.62, we get, let's see, 14.62 over 2. And when you do negative 5 minus negative 19.62, we get negative 24.62 over 2. And now we want to divide. So for this first one, we have x equals 7.31. And for the second one, we have x equals negative 12.31. So these are going to be your two answers. Okay. Number 7. So we have A, B, and C. And guess what? Just kidding, because we have this equal sign. So what that means is B is not going to be positive 17, and C is not going to be positive 12, because what we want to do is move these both to the other side of the equal sign so we can make this equation equal to 0. So what we're going to do is we are going to subtract 17y from both sides and subtract 12 from both sides. So now we have 5y squared minus 17y minus 12 equals 0. So now we can really label these. So we have A, B, and C. So once again, we're going to use our quadratic formula. So x equals opposite b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Okay, so since b is negative 17, opposite b is going to be positive 17. Okay, and then we are going to replace this b with negative 17. We are going to replace this a with 5. We're going to replace this c with negative 12. And once again, this a gets replaced with 5. So now we are going to simplify the 17 squared, the 4 times 5 times negative 12, and the 2 times 5. So we're going to rewrite our equations, or equation singular, 17 plus or minus the square root of 17 squared, which is 289, minus 4 times 5 times negative 12. So that is going to be negative 240. So since we are subtracting a negative, what we're really doing is adding. Okay? And this is all over 2 times 5, which is 10. And now we want to simplify inside of this square root sign. So we're going to rewrite our equation, x equals 17 plus or minus the square root of 289 plus 240, and that is going to be 529 over 10. Okay, and now we want to figure out what the square root of 529 is. So we have x equals 17 plus or minus, and the square root of 529 is 23 over 10. So now we are going to split up this equation into two different equations. So we have 17 plus 23 over 10, or x equals 17 minus 23 over 10. So 17 plus 23 is going to be 40. So we have 40 over 10, which equals 4. Or x equals 17 minus 23, which is negative 6 over 10, and that equals negative 0.6. So x equals 4 or negative 0.6. And this is going to be your answer. Number 16, we have an invisible 1, that's A. We have B, which is 36, and C, which is 60. And we are going to use our quadratic formula. So x equals opposite b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So now we are going to replace all of these. So we have negative 36. We have 36 squared instead of this b. We have a 1 in front, instead of this a, and instead of this c, we have a 60. Okay, and instead of this a down here, we have a 1. So now we have x equals negative 36 plus or minus the square root of 36 squared, and that is 1296, minus 4 times 1 times 60, and that is 240, over 2 times 1, which is 2. So we have x equals negative 36, plus or minus the square root of 1296 minus 240, which is 1056, over 2. And now we're going to find the square root of 1056. Oops, no square root sign anymore once we do that. So it is going to be 32.5 over 2. Okay, and we are going to split this up into two equations. So we have x equals negative 36 plus 32.5 over 2, or x equals negative 36 minus 32.5 over 2. So we have 32.6, that is negative 36 plus 32.5 is negative 3.5 over 2, and x equals negative 36 minus 32.5, so that is negative 68.5 over 2. So now we are going to simplify even further. So we have x equals negative 1.75, or x equals negative 68.5 divided by 2, which is negative 34.25. And this is your final answer. Okay, 19. We have 4 for A, 7 for B, and negative 9 for C. So x equals opposite b, which is negative 7, plus or minus the square root of b squared, so 7 squared, minus 4 times a, which is 4, times c, which is negative 9, over 2 times 4. So we have negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 49 minus 4 times 4 times 9, which is 144, or negative 144, since this is negative. So since we are subtracting a negative, we're really adding, over 2 times 4, which is 8. So now we are going to continue simplifying. Negative 7 plus or minus 49 plus 144, which is 193 over 8, and then we want to find the square root of 193. So we have negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 193. Whoops. Once we find the square root, we don't need that sign anymore. So we just have 13.89 over 8. And since we have a plus or minus, we're splitting them up into two different equations. Negative 7 plus 13.89 over 8, or negative 7 minus 13.89 over 8. So we have 13.89, and so we have 6.89 over 8, or negative 7 plus negative 13.89 is negative 20.89 over 8. And now we want to divide both sides. So 6.89 divided by 8 is 0.86, or negative 20.89 divided by 8, which is negative 2.61. So these two are your final answers. Okay, 22, we have A, B, and C. So x equals opposite b, which is positive 19, since b is negative 19, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c over 2 times a. Whoops. Since a is 3, we're going to plug in 3. So now we have 19 plus or minus the square root of negative 19 squared, which is 361, minus 4 times 3 times 40, which is 480, over 2 times 3, which is 6. So we have 19 plus or minus the square root of 361 minus 480, which is negative 119 over 6. So if you look in here, we have a negative number in the square root sign. So since nothing squared is ever going to equal a negative number, since a positive times a positive is a positive and a negative times a negative is a positive, that means there is no such thing as the square root of a negative number. So because we can't find the square root of negative 119, the answer is going to be no solution. So this is what you write down for this problem. Okay, almost done. So A, B, C. So we have x equals opposite b, which is positive 9, plus or minus the square root of negative 9 squared minus 4 times 5 times 5 equals 4, whoops, what am I doing? 2a, so 2 times 5. So now we have 9 plus or minus the square root of negative 9 squared, which is 81, minus 4 times 5 times 5, which is 100, over 2 times 5, which is 10. So now we are going to subtract 81 minus 100. So we have 9 plus or minus the square root of 81 minus 100, which is negative 19 over 10. So if you look here, once again, we have a negative number in here. So anytime you have a negative number inside a square root sign, the answer is going to be no solution. And this is your answer. Okay, 28. We have an invisible 1. That's A. 3 is B. 4 is C. So keep in mind, you never ever want to put any of the x's into the quadratic formula, because then you'll never be able to solve it. So we have, opposite b, which is negative 3, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is really 3 squared, minus 4 times 1 times 8 over 2 times 1. So now we have negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 9 minus 32 over 2. So 9 minus 32 is negative 23, okay, over 2. So once again, we have a negative number in here, and that means our answer is no solution. And that is it for practice 9-7.